Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David. I'm a social work student uh, for Dr. Singer. Um, this is my article. Make sure I get the right title. This is my evaluation of this is my evaluation article critique. Evaluation article critique and presentation. Yeah, that sounds better. I came to talk to you about bias in the social work field. Uh, a, a, a bias I experience is called unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is the type of cognitive bias, and it refers to automatic judgments people make about others based on the characteristics they cannot help or that we're born with, like race, gender, age, sexual orientation, disability status, and so on. These biases can influence how we act, social workers act, and make decisions, and often without realizing it. Sometimes they even go against what we believe for our core values. Quick story, an example of unconscious bias. In my internship, we was assessing a patient. It was an older man who came in with a much younger woman. He looked a bit disheveled, and she was dressed nicely. And my fellow colleague assumed that based on their age difference and how they was looking, especially together, and assumed that was his daughter. And the patient gave him a very stern, disapproving look and said, "No, that's my wife." That's an example of unconscious bias. Today, I will be talking about the article Interventions to Mitigate Bias in Social Work Decision Making. It's a systematic review by Featherston and his colleagues. The review explores different methods to help social workers reduce biases in their decision making. The goal is give professionals tools that support fairness and ethical practice. This topic matters deeply because bias, especially if we ignore them, because we all have them, whether we in some form or another, can harm the very people we're here to serve. And we're going to go. The question is, what was the purpose of this evaluation? The evaluation explored it and looked at how different tools and strategies can reduce our biases in the social work field. Uh, it also focused on existing methods that aim to limit errors caused by unconscious bias. The authors reviewed four different bias reducing strategies: a nomogram tool, web-based training, uh, a consideration of opposite approach, and a video-based education module. I'm sorry. Since the studies vary in design and outcome, the team used a narrative summary instead of statistical analysis. Who were the participants? Participants included practicing social work students like myself, and other mental health professionals. Group sizes ranged from 15 to over 600 people. Uh, sorry, y'all. And ethics and diversity is our next section. Only one other review studies addressed race or ethnic, ethnicity. The authors acknowledge this is a limitation and recommended future research to include more focus on cultural awareness, inequality, and inclusion. And here what was found. The nomogram tool and the web-based training show potential in helping reduce bias. The consideration of opposite strategy was not effective. Overall, the authors were encouraged but stressed the need for better and more rigorous research moving forward. ProSaid integration. While while this research did not name ProSafe directly, some of its elements, like planning and evaluation, were there. However, review lacked focus on client empowerment or advocacy across systems, which is also a part of the ProSafe model. Evaluation frameworks and improvement. The authors used a standard systematic review method. To improve future research, they suggested including racist, anti-oppressive, and participatory approaches, including feedback and voices from impacted communities, would make the work more inclusive and useful in the real world practice. In other words, checks and balances. We'll ask the public about how they feel, like the patient we talked about earlier. We'll ask him how he feel about how he was treated, and then we'll learn from that mistake that the intern made that I talked about earlier. And here's the impact on social work practice. The study supports the development of tools and training to help social workers reduce bias. These these findings can improve services in areas like child welfare, healthcare, mental health by helping professionals make better and more respectful decisions. Featherstone and colleagues provide meaningful insight into how we can reduce bias in social work. Their research lays the foundation for tools that supports more respectful and more informed practice. And referring back to the to our patient I talked about, older man, if the intern had more awareness of his biases, the situation would have turned out more different. However, the patient felt judged and never returned. That moment is a powerful reminder that our words and assumptions matter. We must move forward with awareness, care, and a strong commitment to doing better. And I thank you, and you guys have a good day.